All right, now we come to what many people say is the single most important element of the 12 elements. People who compete, and you're a judge, so I don't expect you expect you to say this, but people who compete will say impact. Impact. It's like there's impact and then there's everything else. Your image has to have impact. Let's talk about impact a little bit, Carl.
Yeah, impact to me is kind of like first impressions at its most demanding definition. But again, it's like the creativity part, it still has to hold together. So even if something has a lot of impact and it draws people off their chair, it turns heads everywhere you look, it still needs to hold together with lighting, with composition, with technical areas and subject matter and center of interest and color. All those different elements have to work together along with it. To me, and I know we've kind of talked about this off air before too, impact can be different for every different person on that panel. And that's why it's important to not have just one person, because some people are more impacted by really good lighting. Some people are more impacted by awesome composition. Or some people are like, oh, this is pretty. I like the story. We're all differently impacted by different things. And that's why impact alone can help you, but it can also hurt you, because if something has a lot of impact and you're drawn to it, you really look close, and then sometimes you find other flaws because we're looking closer at things by human nature that have a lot of impact. So I will say it again, when you have something of high impact, and that's a good thing, things that turn heads, make sure everything else falls into place too, because it will be looked at a little bit closer than others just by human nature.
I will say this, that I think a lot of people, when they first start putting images in to try and get merits, that one of the things they have to get past is the idea that you are just being judged on technical things and on technical excellence. If you put together an image and you're like, well, this lighting is good and this posing is good and this composition is good and all these things are good and therefore it should merit. If it lacks impact, you're still going to be on the fence. Because that's not enough. It needs to move people in some way. And something that I say to people, and you may dispute this, but one of the things that I often say to people when they're asking me about it is I'll say, think about the image and think to yourself, is this an image that someone would hang up in the lobby of a hotel? So in other words, without knowing anything about what the image is or who's in the image or why the image was shot, is this an image that you would want to look at even though you knew nothing about it? And if the answer is yes, then that image has some impact all on its own, But if you say, well, this image is great because that little girl she had been doing something else earlier that day. No. The judges don't know that. They don't know that. The image itself, just looking at it completely cold, has to affect the viewer in some way. All right, let's look at this first one. Variations on blue.
Yeah, and the variations on blue is phenomenal in the different tones throughout those petals. It's given us the shape and form with the color, with the different intensities of that color. But then they splash in, go against the rules. Remember, don't isolate a single color. And they splash that yellowish orange right in there, which is opposite of that blue, right on that right side crop. It makes you look. You can't not look at it. So it really gives us a lot of impact because of the contrast, because of the color balance, because of the cropping, so the composition, the technical factors are all there. It moved us, or it moved me anyhow. I think this is an awesome, impactful image.
All right, let's look at this next one, and sure, tons of impact. But I'll also say, a great title. It's called Oopsie Daisy.
Oopsie Daisy. Well, this is another good example of how impact affects different people. And my wife grew up on a farm. She collects images of cows. And it's hard not to look at this and not be impacted because of what's going on in our household. So it's something to remember too, is that when you put something out there that's generally impactful, sometimes it can be more appealing and more powerful than something that only attracts the attention of one group of thought process. In this case, it's just adorable. The title works good. The story is awesome. The shape and form, the light on this cow is just phenomenal. We got great texture and fuzziness. The harmony of the color works between the daisies and the cow. It's the one eye showing there. I mean, it is so much to this that we can draw into that's creative and impactful that just makes this next level stuff.
I think we all know how hard it is to light a cow well. So this
Cow
absolutely
lighting,
lit
it's
well.
tough stuff. You can't read about it anywhere. You just
That's
got to
right.
go by your own.
There aren't enough
off the
books.
hoof,
There aren't enough
just-
books on lighting
Yeah.
cows well. I've looked, but also this would when we've talked. One of the other elements that we talked about is color balance, and this probably would have been a great image for color balance as well. And that color balance provides
Yes.
impact.
Very much so.
All right, next
from
up,
foreground to subject to background. Yes.
yeah. Next up is a gilded sorrow.
Yeah, this has some impact too, just because of their expression. We're drawn to her face for several reasons. One, that crown that she's wearing, of course, is leading us from the outside in a spherical nature right to her face. The light is brighter on her face. The light is more dimensional on her face. And then, of course, there's contrast on her face because of the tears. So everything is drawing us. Even her hands and arms are leading us to that one place that the maker wants us to go to. And then it's the emotion of this image that's pulling at our heart, that's creating impact here. Impact doesn't always have to be beautiful or cute or fuzzy and warm. Sometimes it can be, cold and prickly too. And in this case, it's kind of given us a little bit of, okay, what is she crying about? Why? We're asking the question why. It's impactful within this scene.